Welcome back. As you can see, I'm here again with my favorite plant. One of them. I've been making quite a few videos recently, and each video that I made had a sort of direction, a kind of topic that I wanted to focus on, and you can, I guess, say a point I wanted to make. We'll say there was a direction. And sometimes the best videos are the ones that flow, that have no direction, that have no purpose, that simply have an intuitional guidance to them. As I sit here and feel my presence, share my being with you, with my pets in here, with these beautiful, beautiful, beautiful plants behind me, I can feel, not only emotionally, physically, an energy just bubbling in my belly. This energy, this feeling doesn't need a label. And oftentimes it's the moment we label something that the mind will jump in and get in the way. The mind is a great survival mechanism. And beyond survival, learning to put it down, to simply be, can be one of the most liberating feelings, experiences you can allow yourself to have as a human being in this plane. A wordless expression is exactly what we're missing in today's society. Not everything needs to be put in a box. Not everything needs to be understood in a way that you can say, I get it. Because oftentimes, when you interpret something, and you try to fit it into this category, you put it down and you file it in this neat little section somewhere in the mind where everything is perfectly in its place. And it's like one of those books that you've read that just sit there on the shelf. I've read it. I know it. There's no need going back. Oftentimes, this is exactly what happens when you learn your world, you discover your world, you experience your world through the filter of the mind, through its ability to understand something using words and labels. And we think that's what it is. We have been taught to sharpen the mind. How many applications do you see are advertised on television, YouTube? When you play a video game, sharpen your mind. These brain training games, puzzle games. It seems that there's more effort into keeping the mind going than learning to just give it a rest. You see, we forget that the brain, we haven't been taught this. I shouldn't say we forget. We haven't been taught that the brain, just like a muscle that you work out, needs a rest period. You can think of your brain, and this is a great analogy, kind of like your stomach. And you can think of information and brain practices like food. And I'm telling you, and I've learned through experience, that the ratio may not be exactly the same. And depending on where you are in your journey, in your habits, your addictions, you don't spend all day eating, and the ratio of how much food you eat versus the time it takes to digest is not exactly the same as the time that it takes, or that a person should spend cramming intellectual knowledge in the brain and letting it digest. But it's close. But it's close. But it's close. It might take you half an hour to eat, 15 minutes to eat, 2-4 hours to digest what you ate. Let's just say. Depending on what you eat, it can be much longer. But the same thing is true with life lessons. Something might happen to you and you might spend years thinking about it, replaying the story, when all you had to do is learn how to put the mind down and to digest it. You don't have to keep eating it, is the point I'm making. So we've been taught to constantly feed the brain. We've been taught to non-stop eat. We have become gluttons of information and brain training. Without learning to digest the information and absorb it into our being. And that's not the point either. You don't need to become what you believe. You don't need to cram the brain full of information so you can regurgitate it, so that you have it and absorb it, so that you can give it away and you can... The point I'm trying to make is there's an on cycle and an off cycle, and we haven't been taught that the brain needs some off time as well. We haven't learned how to just be. Fulfillment in life, appreciation, love flows through you when you are simply being. When you can sit with someone and share what I call a comfortable silence, you know you have arrived. And you can be yourself around that person. When you can develop that comfortable silence beyond 1 or 2 people, you know you're making some real progress. And when that comfortable silence is spread throughout the world, and I have to be honest, it's not always there for me. I don't think I've gotten there myself. I can tell you I've had glimpses, moments in my life where you can see it, where you see it from a distance, like a mountain climber that finally got to that point in the climb where you can see the peak and you know it's real and you know it's there. You see, I've learned in the spiritual journey, in self-discovery, learning to know thyself, that it doesn't matter where you are in your journey. It doesn't matter what lessons you've learned. Wherever you are is exactly where you are. You could even drop the whole where you need to be. Simply where you are is where you are. When you take some time and shift your attention inside, you may notice some wavering to the left and to the right. Your mind might go from one polarity to the next. There might be a response in the body related to that shift. But through it all, there's one thing, and it's not even a thing, but we'll use that word. There's one thing that remains always constant. Behind all of the happenings that you experience, that you can see inside yourself, there's a presence. And the point is not to always be at the mountain peak. The point is not to always stare at the peak. The point is to let go and to learn self-love and acceptance. And that's not a doing. You see, the minute you start doing, the mind may have jumped in, taken the wheel. And when you start doing, that's okay too. Everything in the journey through discovering who you really are is okay. The entire process, the bad, the good, everything in between, is okay. It is. And you can feel it in your deepest being. When you can just let it go sometimes, even for a moment. Overwhelming peace, serenity, the feeling of Would you share a moment of silence with me now? I'm tired of talking. Let's take the next minute and share a comfortable silence. wherever you are around the world, whatever time it is, whenever you're watching this, thank you. I appreciate you. Have a great night. Peace.